Hi, this is Project Zero with 585 Games, and today I'm going to show you how to fix a very common problem that you'll see with GBA cartridges. And here you'll see I'm turning it on just to test it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And so this is Pokemon Sapphire. Let's go to the title screen. And right here it says the internal battery has been run dry. The game may be played. However, the clock is not running and there are special events that won't be working. So the first thing you want to do is obviously test again, make sure it boots, try and play it, see if you get that message. If not, you can just move on. But here you can see that is the battery that you'll find within the unit. Normally you'll see them, at least for Ruby and Sapphire, they will have a red plastic ring around them. Sometimes they're white, sometimes they're yellow. And that is one that I had pre-bent. So it is, when you get them, they're not actually bent. It was for an older game. So here I have a tri-wing screwdriver. I used a 00 to get in. Once you get the screw out, you can just slide open the case and get into this inside of the board. This is the time as well that I would suggest inspecting other elements. Make sure it's a valid card. Whenever I do any deals, I actually will ask if it's alright if I take it apart to double check the authenticity of the board. So what I was pointing to is the negative side of the battery, and what I'm going to do here is start by desoldering it. Now I've already got my soldering iron ready, and right now I'm running it through some steel wool to clean off the tip. And here I'm going to splash a little bit of flux to make the desoldering go a little bit smoother. It also helps clean the contact area as well. And I have a pry tool to get it up a little bit easier. It helps if you pre-pry a little bit, not too much pressure, because some people don't own a desoldering tool. So here you can see I've heated up the solder a little bit and then pried a little bit at a time to lift the leg all the way up. Now I'm working on the positive side. So I move my spudger down a little bit to put more pressure on that side. Heat it up, and it should break free pretty quickly. Try not to heat up the memory chip that's underneath it. You could actually damage it and bridge solder. Here the other side decided to stick again. This may go back and forth a little bit, and it's totally free. And that's how easy it is to desolder it. Now I'm going to go through with one of my favorite tools that came with my soldering kit, and that is my desoldering plunger. A lot of kits now come with these, and they're fantastic. You basically can heat up the solder, and it has a ceramic tip so that you can just suck the solder right out. So I usually put it right against the solder tip, or the soldering iron tip, and just go at it. And you'll see, you can try a couple times. This is just to get rid of all the excess solder on the top, to give yourself a much better pad to solder to when you're ready to put on the new battery. Now, I'm going to say just right out the gate, this is where I made one of my, or pretty much my only mistake with this repair. With this card, I did not desolder the positive side enough. Or it might be the negative side. The one that's closest to the edge of the chip. It's this part right here that I'm showing. I just couldn't get this to focus. I'll cut this part out. So this is where I made one of my first mistakes, and I did not desolder the pad that is close to the edge of the chip enough. I didn't get enough of the solder out of the way, and it actually caused a problem later on. Unfortunately, I didn't catch me fixing it on camera, so you guys aren't going to be able to see that. But basically what happens here is I will solder, when I get to the second leg, I melt the solder enough and I push it out from underneath, and it mends to the memory chip itself, bridging a whole bunch of connections, which is very easy to fix. You just heat up the pad again, and you use your desoldering plunger or desoldering vacuum, depending on which unit you have, and just suck it right up. It will only heat the outside. It won't be enough to desolder any of the legs, which is nice. So here, once again, some flux to help the solder actually just flow better. I use my spudger to carefully place the battery. Sometimes these are just use your fingers. And you will have to reposition a couple of times. Don't expect to get it the first try. And don't get frustrated. Just keep on going. Sometimes you get lucky and it just sticks first try, and sometimes you don't. So here we're going to heat up the pad. Flux is going to do a lot of the work. Cleans the area again. And then take our solder and see, is what I'm talking about. It'll the battery will move around on you. It's hard to do surface mount parts. So key here is to heat the pad itself and not to add solder directly to the soldering iron. That way you get a proper connection and the solder itself will stick to the metal rather than your soldering iron, and it prevents from a cold solder. So you give a rather healthy dose for the battery because it has pretty big soldering pads. You can even see where it formed around the hole. My main goal here is to get it into place. I'll come back a little bit later and fix it up a little bit, but I'm trying to clean it up here so that it is a mound rather than a donut. And there we go. Because I want to make sure that I'm getting good contact to that pad, otherwise the battery's not going to read well, it won't recharge properly. So once again, on the other side, another little bit of flux to help clean and persuade the solder into place. Here once again, heat up the edge of the pad so that the solder sticks to the pad, not the soldering iron. You can't stress this enough, because you don't want a cold solder, because then you're just getting it everywhere. And there you go. And you're pretty much done. At this point, you want to put everything back together and test it. Here's where I would suggest simply putting the, after you let the board cool for a few seconds, put it into the bottom of the GBA cart before you rescrew it all back together. Here I was a little too confident. And throw it into your Game Boy and test it. If it turns on and you don't get any messages, you did just fine. You fixed it, and you can just put the screw back in. But here I put the screw back in anyways. I didn't see anything wrong at first, so I re-screwed everything back in. And here we are testing out the card again. And you get the Nintendo logo, that's a good sign. And the game boots. We get the Nintendo company logo here, Pokemon, the splash screen, and there you go. There's no more battery message. You can play the game, all the special events work. So here's what I used. I got my soldering iron. I have flux, a desoldering tool, my Game Boy to test with, some solder, some pliers, a spudger, batteries, and a tri-wing screwdriver, and a game cart that needs to be repaired. Pretty simple, guys. So thanks for watching.